Hey guys, welcome to Bethel Online. My name is Jason. I'm one of the pastors here, and we're so glad you decided to make us a part of your weekend. No matter who you are, where you come from, we're so glad you're here. Our vision is to be a safe place for real people to encounter the real Jesus and experience real change. Our hope and our prayer is that no matter who you are or what you've been through, you know that you are loved and you are wanted here. We would love to get to know you better and help you connect with all that's going on. You can do this by going to our website at www.bethel.us or by downloading the Bethel app. You can find our app by searching Bethel Putco in your app store. Both online and in the app, you can fill out digital connection card. It only takes a minute and it'll help us know how to serve you better. Another way you can connect today is through giving. Your generosity at Bethel directly impacts God's mission to radically change people's lives in Putnam County and beyond. Through the ministries of Bethel and the many local and regional organizations we support, people are able to see the grace of God and how much He loves them. You can always give on our website at bethel.us/give or in the Bethel app. Thank you for partnering with us and making a difference. Well, thanks again for tuning in online today. Know that you are wanted and welcome here, and you are loved. I hope you all have a great day.
Good morning and welcome to week 3 of our Be the Light series. Over the past 2 weeks, we've been talking about how God, having shown us His light through Jesus, through our salvation, how God then puts us on a lampstand for us to show that light to the world. And we've been talking about compassion. That God uses our compassion to be a part of what He is doing. And it's a part of our purpose to be the light where we are. That wherever we go, rather than avoiding the darkness that exists in the world, we're to bring light to the situation. But here's the thing. We all know this truth, that there's a limited amount of time. This week, I got this hourglass, and I began to watch as the sand flows through it. It doesn't return course and go back up until it's turned over. There's a limited amount of sand. We all know we have a limited amount of time. As a matter of fact, in our culture, we often think that the money we have is our greatest resource, but I would argue that you can accumulate more of it, but you cannot make more time. And so the question becomes, how do I take the time that God has given me, and how do I use that time to share compassion? And why is that the most valuable thing that I can be doing with my time? In order to even start in this message, I think one of the things that has to happen for us is we have to submit that our time is not really our time. It's been placed in our hands for a moment, for a while, for us to use, and we have to choose, will I use this for my glory and my purposes, or will I use it for the purpose of the one who gives me eternity? My grandfather used to say a phrase that I'm starting to understand as I get older. He would say, Nathan, the days are long, but the years are short. There are days in which we set out to serve and love other people, and we come across difficulties and challenges. We get on social media and people are being unloving, and we want to pipe back really fiery messages. We deal with people, and being compassionate is not always easy. I was recently dropped my son off at college for the first time, and as I drove away, it hit me that there were times when he was a baby that I thought we would never sleep a full night again. There were times in which we made multiple trips to schools, to practices, to games and things, and the days were long sometimes. But driving away that day, I recognized that the years are short and they went remarkably quick. So is life. There are moments of exhaustion and being tired that happen to us. And yet this life is like a vapor. It's here today and gone tomorrow. When has someone in your life made time for you? Perhaps the gift of our time is one of the greatest gifts that we have to give. And I would argue that offering our time to act compassionately, lovingly, and caringly is one of the best uses of our time, because in reality, our showing light in a dark world shows people the Savior who is light to darkness, and not only has the capacity to change what we see right now while the sand runs through the glass of our lives, but also the ability to change eternity as they see the light and come into a relationship with Jesus. In Luke chapter 8, verses 40 through 56, there's a story, and there's kind of a story in a story. It says, when Jesus returned, a crowd welcomed him. They were all expecting him. They were waiting on Jesus. Jesus had demands on him because people were waiting. And in the middle of this crowd, a man named Jairus came. He was a synagogue leader. He was kind of a VIP. And he falls at Jesus' feet and begs Jesus to come to his house. So there's a crowd waiting to see what Jesus will do. Now there's a culturally important person waiting to see what Jesus would do. It said the only daughter he had was dying. She was about 12 years old. I can't imagine a more desperate plea for help, a more desperate cry, a more important cause to ask God to help with. As Jesus was on his way, the crowds almost crushed him. Here Jesus is, the sinless Son of God, in the presence of humanity, with all the great need, all the darkness of the world to be seen. He was in the presence of all of the brokenness of the world and all of the great need. I cannot imagine how it must have felt, and the pressure. It says a woman was there who had a sickness that had made her bleed. Her sickness had lasted for 12 years and no one could heal her. Man, Jesus is being bombarded with difficult, dark circumstances. He was Jesus, the Son of God, with the ability to fix things, change things quickly, do miracles, and yet the pressure still must have felt immense as he experienced what we experienced while he was here. And I think about this and these three things, and how on my own I would be like, I can't save your daughter. I'm counting on the doctors to do that, or hoping for God to show up. I can't fix your illness, lady. I can't keep all of you people happy, and how the pressure of all that would give us temptations to either go into hyper control mode of our life and our time to a spot of unhealth, or to just say, you know what, I can't help everyone, I give up. But Jesus, it says she came up behind Jesus and she touched the edge of his clothes, and right away her bleeding stopped. She just needed a touch from Jesus, as did probably much of the people around Jesus. This woman knew that she did. Jesus asked the question, who touched me? Everyone said they didn't do it. Then Peter said, Master, the people are crowding and pushing against you. Basically, Peter was like, hey, we don't have time to figure out who touched you, Jesus. But Jesus stopped and said, someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me. The woman realized that the people would notice her. I don't think she really even wanted to be noticed, or didn't even want to cry out for the attention of Jesus, and probably even questioned whether she was allowed to go to Jesus. Shaking with fear, she came and fell at his feet in front of everyone. She told why she had touched him. She was basically asking him for mercy. She also told how she had been healed in an instant. Then Jesus said to her, dear woman, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. While Jesus was still speaking, someone came to the house of Jairus. Jairus was the synagogue leader, and said, your daughter is dead. The messenger said, don't bother the teacher anymore. Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, don't be afraid, just believe, and she will be healed. When he arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let everyone go in with him. He took only Peter, John, James, and the child's father and mother. During this time, all the people were crying and sobbing loudly over the child. "Stop crying," Jesus said. "She's not dead. She's just sleeping." They laughed at him. They knew she was dead. But then he took her by the hand and said, "My child, get up." Her spirit returned, and right away she stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were amazed, but Jesus ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened. This story sounds mind-blowingly high pressure when you think of Jesus. Jesus really only had about 3 years of public ministry that we know about between his baptism and ultimately his resurrection. He had to show his power over all things to fulfill the prophecies that had been told. He had to show his power over illness and over nature. And Jesus had all the miracles that he had to do, and ultimately had to fulfill the prophecy of his resurrection to defeat sin and death once and for all time on behalf of those God loved. That's a to-do list no one can handle. But I notice so much about the manner in which Jesus shows compassion. You see, compassion slows down even in urgent moments. I wonder, in a moment like this where we see need around us, if we wouldn't be tempted to say, "Sorry, can't do anything about it. I'm just going to move on." And yet Jesus took time to slow down, to care for people personally. You see, compassion isn't inconvenienced. Compassion isn't an inconvenience. It's actually an opportunity. Seeing need is an opportunity for kindness, gentleness, love. Compassion is an opportunity to share light. And we might be tempted because we feel like we can't do everything and be everything to everyone and solve all the problems, that maybe we just wouldn't do anything. But I would challenge you that just because we can't do everything doesn't mean we aren't supposed to do something. Jesus is on a mission, but he's still fully present. And Jesus is headed to Jairus' house. Jesus is coming to the people. He has some things to do, but he sees this woman who really needed his attention and needed to be noticed, and was probably something she had suffered alone. And Jesus shows her compassion. See, Jesus doesn't rush past people even when others expect urgency, and neither should we. I believe one of the greatest powers of the church isn't what happens on Sunday morning. While it's important to gather and it's important to worship, it's important to get into God's word, it's then important to go out into the world and to show light by bringing compassion. Jesus doesn't rush past people when others expect urgency. If we're living life at a pace in which there's no space for compassion, it's not congruent with the life of faith. Proverbs 19:21 says this: "A person may have many plans in their heart, but the Lord's purpose wins out in the end." I would tell you that we all have the purposes we want God to do and to foster, and we all have a picture of how things go for us, but God's plan is better. Number 2, we need to be willing to pause for the unnoticed. Who do you look away from in your life because you don't have solutions for how to help? It may not be that your actual help is as much what they need as your compassion. But I would argue too that compassion without actual help isn't really compassion, it's pity. Be willing to pause for the unnoticed. You haven't truly served until you've done something for someone that they could never do anything for you in return. Jesus noticed the woman's touch. And many probably thought Jesus was going to be angry about it. But instead, he stopped and paid attention to what had formerly been unnoticed. The crowd around Jesus had not paid attention. Jairus had not paid attention to the fact that there was so much need around Jesus. Colossians chapter 3 verse 12 says, "So put on tender mercy and kindness as if they were your clothes." Compassion doesn't panic. I think about this moment where Jesus is going to heal Jairus' daughter, and I believe that Jesus knew that the time for her was running out if he didn't attend to the problem. And then this thing comes up that was unexpected. Right now, we're in the process of building a new facility as a church that is going to be a tool for us to continue to reach out, love on, show compassion to our community, and be a light from. Almost every other meeting for the past few months, we found out that timeline is going to be moved back a little bit. And there is a part of me that's like, I don't have time to wait. I need this to be done. I want this to be done. And I can get really stressed out about it. Except I've learned over the years that I have to trust God's timing in things. That God may be doing something right now, as he's done things in the recent past that were a part of the process for us to get where we're going, but also not to miss the opportunity of compassion that's right in front of us. Jesus doesn't panic at all of the things that are needed from him. He seems to be relatively at peace. And I think that happens because he was in line with the will of God. And when we're in line with the will of God, we can trust that he's good and his timing is good. See, Jesus didn't miss his chance because time is in his hands. So you have a timeline on your life and things aren't going the way that you think they should. God has a plan for your life. Others thought, why bother? She's dead. But Jesus remained calm. Because so often the things in our lives that we think are dead just need a touch from Jesus. You might be surprised at what you see as hopeless and how much hope can be found in Jesus. Just this morning, I was in the store picking up some food and groceries. I'm kind of batching it this week, picking up food and groceries, things to feed the kids in the evenings when they're home. And I was talking to a lady and she was like, you don't know me, do you? And then she explained how she had connection through family and she knew who I was through the church and having watched maybe online. And then she began to say how impactful it had been to her about 4 years ago when Pastor Aaron had his surgery, and how she had watched everyone come together and love on and show compassion to and pray for, and how even on her own she had found herself praying in a way that she didn't ordinarily pray because of that. We were talking about how many times that situation in those 20 some days felt hopeless. How the possibilities ranged all over the place, from no recovery at all to healing, and how we were submitting our hearts to God and what he wanted. And what seemed hopeless, though, wasn't at all. And it wasn't easy, but God used it for so much good. He allowed it to be a light that shined in the community. We all freaked out. God didn't. Jesus isn't driven by pressure, but by purpose. Ultimately, Jesus was going to use all of these events to give evidence toward him being the Son of God. Jesus was going to use all of these events to show his response to a people living in brokenness, and people who were living in sin, and people who were in a situation that was hopeless. Jesus wasn't driven by pressure, but by purpose, and it's still true. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 says, "There is a time for everything." Our time on this earth is limited, and there may be some things left on our to-do list when the time runs out. But at the end of the day, using our time to show compassion is never a waste. One thing I'd like to point out about this passage is that Jesus stayed long enough to see the miracle. He wasn't treating people like a checkoff list. He could have healed the woman, but in this moment, he not only heals the woman, he shows her incredible compassion. He saw through the deeper need beyond her need for physical healing and let her know that she was noticed by him. He took her by the hand and he said, "My child, get up." Being called the child of this rabbi and ultimately Jesus and the Savior of the world was probably not something that she set out to hear that day. She just wanted to stop being anemic. She just wanted to stop constantly feeling like she couldn't be around the people she wanted to be around, of constantly feeling like nobody wanted to acknowledge the pain and the struggle she was going through. You see, time with people is a part of discipleship, and it's also a part of restoration. And sometimes we think that we're going into a situation to restore it, but it's often in the process of serving someone else that God brings restoration to us. When you stay long enough, people see the power of God through your presence. I've come to the conclusion in life that the end result of our life is not fully up to us, but how we use the time of our life is. And the longer that we stay around and work and show compassion and love, the more we have opportunity to see how it bears fruit. Galatians chapter 6 verse 2 says, "Carry one another's heavy loads. If you do, you will fulfill the law of Christ." This week, intentionally slow down. Give time to someone who feels overlooked, not for a task, but for a relationship. Interrupt your schedule to make space for someone else's healing. And my friend, take time to be in the presence of a compassionate God. You might be surprised how His touch will change you. I love you, Bethel, and have a great week.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Are you ready to take your next step? We would love to hear from you. You can send an email to hello@bethel.us. You can send us a message on Facebook, or you can let us know in the Bethel app. And speaking of the Bethel app, take a moment, if you haven't already, to go to your app store and search Bethel Putco to download our app. There's all kinds of great resources in the app. You can listen to messages, you can view the messages for Sunday morning, and you can also fill out a digital Connect card. You can do that today and each week to let us know that you're tuning in. You can also find some great information about our Bethel Kids Ministry and our Be the One student ministries. Also in the app, you can give. It's one of 3 ways you can give, with online giving at bethel.us/give, in our app, Bethel Putco, or through text. Hey, thanks again for joining us. We hope you have a great day and know that you are loved.